Welcome to Chapter 4, Carbohydrate, Sugar, Starch, Glycogen, and Fiber. Carbohydrate digestion and absorption. Learning objectives. Describe carbohydrate digestion and absorption. Carbohydrate digestion and absorption. The ultimate goal of carbohydrate digestion is the absorption of glucose. So, you want glucose to be absorbed. Carbohydrate digestion starts in the mouth. The salivary enzyme amylase works to begin starch digestion. So when you see ASE, that is an enzyme. The activity of the above enzyme, amylase, diminishes in the stomach due to stomach acid. Stomach acid is very strong. If fiber is present in the stomach, it delays gastric emptying because it takes time to break down the fiber in the stomach when you're digesting. The delay in gastric emptying increases one's feeling of fullness and satiety. So when it takes time for it to digest, your body's going to follow like, oh yeah, I am full. Small intestine. The majority of carbohydrate digestion happens there, and the majority of carbohydrate absorption happens there too. Maltase, sucrase, lactase, pancreatic amylase are all present there in the small intestine. And remember with the ASE, and ASE, they're enzymes. And maltase breaks down maltose. Remember that disaccharide we spoke about. Sucrase breaks down sucrose, which is that disaccharide we talked about too. Lactase breaks down lactose, another disaccharide we spoke about. The large intestine. The fiber attracts water, which softens the stool. So if you didn't have water in your stool, it's going to hurt when you go. All right, food map. What is food map? Food map is a diet in which digestion produces gas and other symptoms. Food map diets improve irritable bowel syndrome. So this was created by a doctor and a dietitian for those who really have irritable bowel movements, and it's a very strict diet. It's usually in 2 weeks. There was someone that I had to oversee that had a food map diet. I did not recommend it because it has to be a nutritionist that is not certified, but someone who is very familiar with the food map diet. But I work with that nutritionist since I was in the Head Start area, and I communicate with the nutritionist, the doctor, or the nurse that was dealing with this child who had this strict food map diet, so we can work with the child's needs, especially in the school setting. And it's a very strict diet, and I think the child was in this diet for about 4 to 6 weeks. So every time I was at that site, I check up on the child's needs, or I would email the social worker, their coordinator, and to see how the child was doing. All right, large intestine, fermentation and short-chain fatty acids. Carbohydrate digestion in the GI tract. Digestion and absorption. Starch and disaccharides are broken down into monosaccharides for absorption. So when you think about it, disaccharides are bigger than monosaccharides. In order to better absorb your nutrients, you have to break it down. Digestion, starch digestion begins in the mouth, splits starch into shorter units. Remember, we got to break things down so it's easier to digest and absorb. Ceases in the stomach, resumes in small intestine, and resistant starch. So I want you to look through these. Starch, mouth and salivary glands. The salivary glands secrete saliva into the mouth to moisten the food. The salivary enzyme amylase begins digestion. So imagine if you didn't have a salivary gland and you swallow after you kind of crunch up your food. It's going to hurt. So it's good that we have the salivary gland to soften it up as it goes through the esophagus and down to the stomach. And as far as fiber, the mouth, the mechanical action of the mouth, that means it does the crunching and breaking it down physically, enters fiber in food and mixes it with saliva to moisten it for swallowing. Okay, now the stomach on the starch. Stomach acid inactivates salivary enzyme, halting starch digestion. So you're like, okay, hold on. And under fiber for stomach, fiber is not digested. It delays gastric emptying. So it's not digested. It delays the delays the emptying of the stomach. Under starch, small intestine and pancreas. The pancreas produces an amylase that is released through the pancreatic duct into the small intestine. Then, disaccharide enzyme on the surface of the small intestine cell hydrolyze the disaccharides into monosaccharides. Remember, that's when it brings the water back into these disaccharides and they become two monosaccharides. So in the small intestine with the fiber is not digested and it delays absorption of other nutrients. And then under the large intestine and fiber, most fiber passes intact through the digestive tract to the large intestine. Here, bacteria enzyme digests fiber. Fiber holds water, regulates bowel activities, and binds substances such as bile, cholesterol, and other minerals, carrying them out of the body. So the more fiber you eat, the more the fiber binds to the cholesterol, to the bile, and it leaves your body system. Digestion of carbohydrates. Most chemical digestion of carbohydrates occur in the small intestine. Pancreatic amylase are enzyme produced in the pancreas and secreted into the small intestine. So it's made in the pancreas and then it gets brought to the small intestine. Enzymatically digests starch to maltose. Additional enzymes secreted by the cells that line the small intestine, like mucosal cells, digest disaccharides to monosaccharides. So think about it needs to be broken down. Disaccharides are longer, they're bigger than monosaccharides, so it needs to be broken down so it can be better absorbed. These enzymes include maltase, sucrase, and lactase. Remember, ASE are enzymes. And what kind of enzymes are maltase for? Yes, maltose. And how about sucrase? Yes, for sucrose. And how about lactase? Yeah, for lactose. Monosaccharides absorb into the cell's lining, the small intestine, and then enter the bloodstream. Digesting sugar and fiber. Sugars, they split to yield free monosaccharides. Enzymes on small intestine's lining, and the sugar travel to the liver. Fiber is fermented by bacteria in the colon, or also known as large intestine. Carbohydrate absorption. This is a really good video to watch. And I'll explain how active-passive transport works. So I think this is a good video to watch, and you can look at these notes while you watch it. Absorption of monosaccharides. 1. Monosaccharides is the end product of carbohydrate digestion. It enters the capillaries of the intestinal villi. So you're like, what are the intestinal villi? So here's the small intestine where a lot of things are being absorbed. and then there's these little villas here, which looks like this. And these villas have microvillas, which are here. So like, why are they shaped like that? Well, because they're shaped like that because if they were just flat, nutrients wouldn't be absorbed as easily. Since they're shaped like this, and they have these little microvillas, more nutrients can enter into these villas, into the small intestine, with greater ease because there's more surface areas that they can say, hey, nutrients come here. So these monosaccharides travel to the liver through the portal vein. And then in the liver, galactose and fructose share metabolic pathways with glucose. And then glucose is used by most cells in the body for energy. So you have these, remember, monosaccharides. These are monosaccharides. And they're there to create energy for the body. See you soon. And remember to read the book.